Welcome to the David Spisak Show. You're not going to believe. For those of you that are listening, as you usually do, perhaps in your car, on your walk, whatever you happen to be doing, maybe you've got an old school Walkman, I don't know. I just appreciate the fact that you were kind enough to give me your time. And as always, I take that really seriously. I don't take myself seriously, but as always, I want to make sure that I deliver you great value. Listen, if you're in retail automotive, and frankly, if you're in retail automotive, everything you're going to hear today, I believe, has the potential of being incredibly eye-opening and absolutely transformative. If you're not in automotive and you happen to be somebody who's thinking about buying a car now in the near future or sometime down the road, life has changed. It's not like it used to be, where if I was the dealer, my competitor was the dealer to the left of me or the right of me, right? It's also not that way as a consumer. As a consumer, listen, 90% plus of consumers start their purchasing journey right here using this phone. And because they're on this phone, hey, they're mobile. They can go anywhere. They can connect with anybody anywhere. And yep, they could even buy a car anywhere today. The question is, how do you do it in a way that's fast, that's simple, seamless, easy, transparent, and most of all, compliant, that protects your identity as a customer? So I'm lucky enough, I've had the chance to chat with Rudy, who's the CEO of MavSign. I had a chance to have a conversation with him back during the National Auto Dealer Association, and I asked Rudy, I said, hey, give me an example, real world example of what this looks like. And he said, hey, I just happen to know somebody pretty well, my wife, who did this herself. So I'm going to flip it over. Rudy, I want to pull you in here and hope everything's well for you and the MavSign team, first and foremost.
Great. Yeah,
everybody's having a great year. I appreciate you taking the time to jump in here, and I promise I won't take much of your time. But for people listening, would you please just share, kind of get this kicked off on how this started? I asked to get a real world example for people who are interested in maybe selling cars outside of their area, outside the state, or buying a car outside the area, out of the state. In fact, by the way, I've got a brand new vehicle that's coming in the next week or so. By the way, Fletcher Jones Newport Beach does it again. MavSign is who they're using. So I know what it feels like for me, but can you just kind of kick us off this situation with your wife buying a car? How did it start? Who did you reach out to? What was the dealership? And kind of walk me through that.
Yeah. So if you recall, Preston was on your show a while back, and Napleton.
Preston, Napleton, head of compliance and variable operations. Yes, fantastic.
Yeah, so I had seen Preston on your show. They are a great MavSign customer. They use our identity verification and our secure offsite closing process for all their stores up in the Midwest. And so at about that time, and this was not like a tariff purchase or anything like that you've heard of, but at about that time, actually, Allison and I were talking about, I kind of feel like we need another car. Like the cars we had weren't working for us. And so the initial goal was maybe look for a car, look for a car for me. And then we started looking at cars, and anytime you have a car with your spouse, you want something that they would also drive, just so that it's not just, kind of isolated to one driver.
You are the modern man, Rudy.
Trying to be, so we go looking around, and then we start looking around, and we're like, I think we'll just get Allison a car instead.
You're a wise man, Rudy. What kind of car did she want?
A Lexus. Allison, what kind is it? It's a Lexus.
TX.
Oh, it's one of the hottest vehicles on planet Earth, period. Tariff or no tariff, that vehicle is just red hot. They can never get enough of them. So where did you find it? Obviously, you're located in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Where in Texas?
Houston.
Houston, Texas. Okay. And where did she find the vehicle?
There was a specific kind of, color combo. We wanted a certain package that had, the things the creature comforts that we needed in a certain color. And we keep cars like 8 to 10 years. So we're going to give what we want. So there was probably, maybe 5 or 6 around the country that existed. And, I went to, my process was always like, try to find a MavSign customer first, a dealer that I'm familiar with that I know does it the right way. And, a lot of them were just, didn't really have any other real dealers using MavSign that were interested in doing a remote deal.
So, Rudy, what did you do?
Well, I called Preston and said, "Hey, Preston, can you find me a car?"
Wait a minute. So this is the same Preston I've had the pleasure. I met up with Preston at NADA, and I also had the pleasure of having him as a guest. So, all right. So then you go over to Preston, and Preston says,
let me introduce you to
wait a minute. Wait. I got people listening here. Why don't we just let them listen to Preston? Preston.
Sitting right here.
Yeah, you happen to be here, and you get this call from Rudy, probably desperation. Listen, I got to do this for my wife, right? I want to make her happy. I want to get her the car that she would love. And what did you tell him?
Well, it's not a difficult conversation, really. For me, Mr. Meyer and our Lexus and Wayzata store is just probably the absolute best I have as far as, they just do so much business across the Midwest and outside their own market. And again, Becky herself as well, the finance manager that handled the transaction, who does over 100 transactions a month. I mean, she's a machine. And this was, I saw as an opportunity. Again, he has one of the largest inventories and access to multiple stores' inventories. And so I don't know what, Matt, I think you and I were talking 10 minutes later, and you and Rudy are on the call end of day. So picking a vehicle out.
So all right. So I'm going to have Matt jump in. And by the way, for those of you who are listening, I literally have 6 different people in 6 different locations that were stringing this story together so that we could bring together and bring it to real life, an actual situation that happens and happens way more than buyers know and that many dealers are aware of. And by the way, before we skip over to Matt, Preston, one of the cool things to me about this is I've got somebody who's a client sitting in Houston who can't find the car in Houston or in Texas, but is ready to buy right now. You just happen to have an organization that was built for this, that has the open-mindedness, wanted to take advantage of taking care of people wherever they are, wherever they live. But you also took the steps years ago. How many years ago? Because a lot of people think, these types of out-of-state purchases are just happening more and more now. Do you remember the first time that you guys started doing out-of-state?
I'll tell you, I think it's, I'd have to go back to, our first conversation you and I had, right? I've been with MavSign most of my career. So in finance side of things specifically, but over 10 years. So
10 years ago, you were doing stuff that the majority of stores are still not doing today. That's unbelievable. All right, I want to come back to you. But before I do, you were about to hit me over. Can you shift me over? Can we teleport over to Matt at his store? And this is Lexus of Wayzata, right, Matt?
Yep. Yes, sir.
So, Matt, you are the general manager at that fabulous store. And you guys have multiple Lexus stores in the group, correct?
Yeah, we have a total of 4 within the Napleton group. We have one other store here in Minnesota, and then the other 2 are in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of dealing with you guys years and years and years ago with my reporting platform. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you right here, right now. So, Matt, Rudy calls Preston because he knows Preston. Preston says, hey, I got a guy who his wife wants to buy a vehicle, knows exactly what she wants. And can we help her? And then what happens on your end?
I was given Rudy's number. A couple minutes later, I was on the phone with him. We started to, get a breakdown of what equipment was necessary for the vehicle to fit in the use of the family and for Allison. And back and forth. It didn't take us very long. I would say maybe a collective few hours. Located the car. Made the trade, got the trade all set up, got the vehicle brought here. In the meantime, at that point, Rudy then was, kind of curating the information, the additional accessories and info that he wanted to add to the TX prior to being delivered to him in Houston. So now that we're waiting for the car to inbound to us, he and I, we got together, we laid all the details out of what we needed to do to upgrade the vehicle to the level of equipment that they needed. And in the meantime, Once that was all dialed in, vehicle showed up. We got it prepped, we got it cleaned, we got it dialed in, we got all the accessories added. And then at that point, that's where I made the intro with Rudy and Becky, and then Becky took to the next steps so that we could transition over to the MavSign offsite completion process. Yeah.
So Matt, so at that point, you help Rudy, and what's really cool to me about your part of the story is you're not in sales, right? I mean, you're not a sales associate. You're not a sales manager. You're the general manager of the store. So you literally didn't pass this off. You found out Preston had referred Rudy to you. You got on the phone with him directly. You found what he needed. You triggered the trade. You guys were proactive, got the car in right away. So that took care of that. That was now a non-issue. And now you start working with him to say, hey, listen, let's make this yours. What else do you want on this? You personalize it. And now really it's just down to the actual transaction part, right? The process. And as you said, the MavSign process. And it just so happens that you happen to have yet another expert within your midst, Becky, who sounds like Becky's the finance manager, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
And Becky's done a few of these MavSign processes, it sounds like. Thank you for letting us understand that part of the process and kind of getting behind the scenes. So for people that buy cars, they could kind of understand what that looks like. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. The cool thing is you'll notice anybody listening, when you're working with the right dealership, there is so much going on behind the scenes, but you don't have any sense of it. All they do is make it easy. They make those things go away. And this is a perfect time to bring Becky in. And Becky, it's a pleasure to meet you. Becky, your last name, Becky Stenson?
Stenson, yes.
Right. So Becky, it's a pleasure to meet you. How long have you been in F&I?
I have been in F&I for 32 years.
32 years. So you're pretty close to getting off for probation. Good for you.
Yes.
Just another few weeks, and you're finally going to get that pin as a full-time employee. Becky, that's amazing. 32 years. So you've seen some things, right? You in this business, you've seen a few things.
Yes.
And there had to be back in the day, Becky, there had to be a time that when a salesperson came up to you, or even a GM like Matt, imagine 20 years ago coming up and saying, hey, I know you don't like these, but I got a person from out of state that wants to buy a vehicle. And you would go, oh my God, I want nothing to do with this, right? Because it was challenging, difficult, and probably rife with potential problems, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you never know who you're dealing with on the other end of the phone call.
And especially these days, right? It may not even be a person on the other end of the phone, for God's sake, with AI. So now, though, how long have you been using this MavSign process that Matt just served up to me?
We've probably been set up with MavSign for over 3 years now.
Okay. At your store. And what has that done in terms of within the context of handling a process like helping Rudy and Allison get the car that now Matt found for them that's sitting in Minnesota, and now it needs to get down to Houston, but a whole lot of things need to happen to make sure that Allison and Rudy's identity is protected, the dealership is protected, you're following compliance. How hard is that, or how easy is it with MavSign?
MavSign made it really unique in the fact that you could actually do a video chat, have Allison on the phone live, actually be able to see her face. She can see who she's dealing with on the other end. And nothing is better than being able to see somebody's face to explain things to. Also, the menu that we present is also live as well. We're able to actually present all the products live. If she has questions, we were able to answer those questions live right on, right there for her. If she had any kind of questions on any of the products, we were able to present a full menu to her as well. She could pick and choose which products she wanted, which one she selected, which one she didn't want. So she
was able to customize her ownership experience, so to speak.
Absolutely.
live on the phone with you on a video chat where she could see who she's dealing with. You get that sense of connection, right? It builds
Correct.
trust and relationships, which is cool. And so she was able to do that as if she was sitting literally in Minnesota at
Absolutely.
your desk.
Just like
Very
she's
cool.
sitting in front of me.
Very cool. And then, so from there, once she did that, then you were able to create the paperwork, obviously. And then it's a matter of being able to get the paperwork somehow, some way to her in a very safe fashion that ensures, that she's going to be, again, protected.
Absolutely.
And so for that, if it's okay, is there anything else that you would add? Because I wanted to jump over. The only person I haven't spoken to is the person who's driving the car. And I want to get to Allison as well. So before I jump to Allison, is there anything else for people listening who have never gone through that process that you think they may want to know?
No, it just is a very convenient way to do it, and it actually helps protect their identity. It helps protect, we're the gatekeepers to make sure everything is compliant. And so it just makes it a great, unique situation where you know that you're doing everything as far as compliance is concerned, and you're able to give a great presentation to a customer as if they are sitting in front of you.
Super cool. That's very cool. Thank you so much for giving me your time. And Allison, can I bring you in right about now?
Of course. Of course.
So Allison, I think the number one question that everybody's going to have on their mind right now is, did he do good? Did he do well for you?
He did great.
Great.
He
Okay,
did
so
great.
the
He did
relationship is not in any danger.
We're totally good. Totally good. Yes. He did a good job.
That was a
He did a good job.
cliffhanger. Allison,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
would love to know, because it's crazy. I've been all around the country, it seems like, from Rudy to Preston to Matt over to Becky and now to you. As you're sitting here through the lens of a customer, a prospective customer, somebody who's a buyer, what did this feel like to you? How was it different from other ways that you've purchased cars?
Much less stressful. I will say that for sure.
Interesting. You
Looking
would think
at-
it would be more. I mean, I think most people, if they've never done this, would think, oh my God, I can't do it. It would be far more stressful. But it turns out it's the exact opposite.
Exactly. Trying to figure out, narrowing down which car I wanted, having to actually go into dealer lots and look at cars, kicking tires basically for a little while, and then getting those subsequent calls from the dealership or from the salesperson was a little unnerving after a while. So doing it this way, knowing exactly what I wanted, and then being able to specify that, Becky, like she said, walked us through a list of extended warranty and some other items on the car that I just was not aware of that could have been options for us, made it so much easier versus doing it in the dealership itself, face to face.
It's crazy. I don't know if you know how long Rudy has been involved in anything automotive related, the time with Reynolds predominantly, but quite a few years, right?
Quite a few. Almost, yes. Almost as long as we've been married.
Yeah. How long have you been married?
I'm going to put him on the spot. He can-
Hey, he'd be lucky if he knows your birthday. How long, Allison?
In 24
Because
years.
Allison's going to tell us like it's a prison sentence. It's been how long?
24 years.
24 years, David.
Yeah.
7 months, 6 days, and 3 hours and 10 minutes. Right. Please, Lord, help me. Well, congratulations, by the way, on that. That's fantastic in and of its own right, coming up on 25 years. So congratulations in advance. But
Thank you. Thank you.
The reason I pulled that out is, most people would say they struggle. It's a challenge, the purchasing process, right? You could go online today. It's easy enough. Go online, go on websites, shop around. But at some point, you got to get in your car. You got to go to the physical location. You got to see what the color looks like. You want to know who you're dealing with. You want to be, I don't know why Allison, why do people kick tires? I don't know. I think back in the day, tires must have been this thin and you kicked in. If thing blew out, you didn't buy the car. But you want to kick around the tires, look at the vehicle and things of that nature, but it takes a lot of time. And what's crazy is people think, well, if you're in the business, it's got to be like this. It's the same process Almost the same process. 45 years I've been in this business. My wife's looking for a car now. It's the same process. And people have the same questions, the same challenges, and yes, the same frustrations, unless you can pick up the phone and call a Preston Stewart who's going to make it easy, who's going to make a call over to Matt, who's going to say, I'll take care of this myself. But every step of the way, it sounds like in this process, people just made it easy. And part of that was because of the MavSign process itself, yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what did that feel like by the time you had this wonderful conversation with Becky and she did an expert job of guiding you through the process, being able to meet her face to face, so to speak, on video? Mm-hmm. And then what happens? How does the paperwork show up? How do you end up signing things? How do you make sure that everything is done the right way?
After we met with Becky, about a day or two later, we had a meeting with a notary who came to my house at 9 a.m. and with all of her paperwork.
Did you specify the time?
I did. Yes. She came at perfect timing. Yes.
Oh,
so she came at 9 a.m. with all of her documents. She checked my license, and then I signed. It maybe took 5 to 7 minutes at most. Wow. We probably visited and spent more time talking about other things than we did the car itself. But she did, the verification process was smooth and seamless.
And by the time you got done with that, I'm curious, I have to ask for people that are listening, what was your level of first of all, I feel like I'm going to know the answer to this question. Did the process exceed your expectation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Met and exceeded. Yes. Okay. I expected it to go smoothly, and of course it did.
Okay, great. And then two, most importantly, perhaps, what was the level of confidence that you had, security, that you had peace of mind after that process that I'm good?
It never really occurred to me, and I think that's probably a good thing, because I just assumed everything was, and it was, safe and secure. She had to verify, and she spoke face-to-face to me and was able to verify my identity going forward.
Very cool. Very cool. And then last but not least, you got the car, right?
I did, yes.
So you went through what was, by all rights, an insanely simple, easy, straight through, transparent process that sounds like it was infinitely easier than any process you've ever been through before in buying a vehicle.
Absolutely. It was, I'd actually showed up in my driveway while I was at the dentist with my son. And the day after it was delivered, I was able to get online with Nathan, the salesman. And he sat in Minnesota in the same vehicle, and we FaceTimed for about an hour, I believe, and went through every step, it's sort of like a Lexus boot camp of my new car. And he showed me everything that I needed to know, most of which was a little self-intuitive, but it worked out beautifully.
This episode is brought to you by MavSign, the leaders in fraud mitigation and identity protection. Go check out MavSign.com to learn more about how dealers and top salespeople have increased their sales by being able to sell in dealership, out of the area, or even out of state remotely in a frictionless fashion with full compliance while protecting their consumers' identities.
And I got to take hats off to Matt. I mean, and to Preston, to have an organization that not only has the compliance piece, the cross the T's, dot the I's, but has the humanity piece, has the passion for and the obsession for taking care of a client. Can you imagine, anybody listening, can you imagine after I'm said and done with all of that process, and it went so seamlessly, that the salesperson who I've never met, who's sitting God knows how many states over, reached out, connected, sat in the exact same car so that they could walk me through again, just like Becky's process, walk me through as if I was sitting there. I mean, welcome to 2025, working with an incredibly forward-leaning organization who's using a spectacular tool like MavSign. This is what car buying should feel like and look like. Do you agree, Allison?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's spectacular. I want to flip back to Rudy just one more time before I head over to Preston to wrap up. But Rudy, interestingly, here you are, the CEO of this company. I got to ask you, I'm just curious, there had to be a time in this process when it was all said and done that you were like, dang, that really works. Like it put a smile on your face and you're like, I tell people about this, I hear about it all the time, but to go through it firsthand and to hear the impact, the positive impact it had on Allison's buying experience just had to make you so happy.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a number of family and friends go through the process and, you end up in the car business, you end up being the resident car person in your family, for advice. And, I always try to go find the right dealers, but specifically, if the inventory is not available locally, we try to find the right MavSign dealer just because, they're trusting me to give them, to refer them to a good experience. And so it was great to experience that myself. And my wife, and it was, gave me a lot of pride that my wife got to experience that and see, kind of firsthand what I do every day. So
it's really cool. Yeah. And it's rare. And not a lot of our families actually have the opportunity to do that. Hey, Preston, can I jump over to you? I'd love for you to be batting cleanup here and to bring this home just because you're in a very interesting position that does not necessarily exist at dealerships across the country because you serve two really critical roles, big roles in the Napleton organization. One is the head of variable, and the second is the head of compliance, director of compliance. And those are both huge in and of themselves. But I would love to hear from your perspective as somebody who engages, works with, encourages, up levels, and is constantly trying to find ways to give their variable teams, your managers and salespeople, a competitive advantage, but at the same time, making sure it's done in a way that frankly protects both the clients and the Napleton organization as well. From your perspective, can you just touch on, as we get towards wrapping up, and you listen to this story, first and foremost, it's probably something you've heard quite a few times, but I'm guessing it still puts a smile on your face to see you're able to deliver that level of an experience that impacted somebody who's married to somebody in this business and walks away going, wow, it's got to make you pretty happy as well.
No, absolutely. It's got to be the goal of anybody selling a car that you exceed the expectations. So when you get to hear that, that's always a nice positive thing to hear. It's again, that's the goal day one, right? It's just to make sure everybody's experience. We take advantage of the fact that most consumers, they buy 4 or 5, maybe 6 cars in a life, and we do that on a Tuesday. So it's really nice when somebody in one of the stores that can deliver that extra level of experience that makes a person feel comfortable with, think about just as a consumer perspective, right? The thought of having your information going online and, not really meeting anybody or physically in front of somebody. I mean, it's just as much for us as a business protecting our interest as much as it is the consumers. And giving them that peace of mind. I have to say, even, I learned a little bit on this because, they just launched their integration with Route 1. And so it was an education for me during this process a little bit too, and on that aspect of it. But I just have to say, Mavs continues to, exceed our expectations as well, and continues to, push forward and offer us, more tools that make it even more conducive to the sales environment, and doesn't become a harboring on time. Doesn't become that dead zone we always worry about, right? So,
Preston, what does the Route 1 connection do for you?
Rudy, you want to cover that? I mean, I feel like you probably are going to describe it better.
Yeah, well, the reality is F&I has so many things to do at juggle to get a deal executed. So anything you can do to eliminate keystrokes is
whether it's in person or out of state.
Yeah, it's just a game changer. And so, the Route 1 integration is from the credit application screen where dealers are already living and breathing every day. They can easily, just with a click of a button, push all of that deal information into Route 1 to start their order. So again, it just saves them, 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the amount of information of having to rekey information. And I've just learned over time from when I was at Reynolds or JM&A, or even when I was in retail, like anytime you can make something easier versus harder, your odds of having a good F&I presentation and a good experience
If I'm understanding that correctly, Preston, it also sounds like it would translate into me getting my money faster as a dealer. Yes?
Absolutely does.
Yeah.
It just really, what he did is he took two processes that previously were separate. That contract was separate. Like you still had to go back to Route 1 and do everything else. And a full integration to the point of, it all lives kind of in harmony in that same spot. So it's
very cool.
Again, if we've been waiting for it, we're happy to have it too. So that 15 minutes matters. It really does.
Well, especially when you this, you live this every day, but none of us have enough time. None of us. I don't care what your circumstances are, if you got a partner or not, if you had kids or not, if you have one job or four jobs. Nobody has enough time. Everybody has this perception that they're always upside down on time. So to be able to give somebody back 15 minutes, whether it's that client, which is a big deal, but it's equally a big deal, isn't it, for the associate?
I mean, it becomes a true win-win-win.
Yeah. Because now, if I don't have to do that, I can focus more on the experience with the client and not the process. And that's pretty cool. This is a perfect lead into another question I had. So just from a high level, what is the strategic partnership that you have today with MavSign? What does that do for you in terms of allowing you to go literally head to head, the proverbial David and Goliath with the big disruptors, or to be able to level the playing field to where you literally, your dealership is no longer, it doesn't end at the curb. Your ability to help people extends literally anywhere somebody is. What has that done for you?
And I was back to the point of we started this. I brought this process on about 5 years ago when I came on to the organization. And I will say that, every piece we do, it just gives you that peace of mind that business is being done the right way. That your customers are taken care of. There's compliance is handled. I mean, they're a partner that helps you really put the two pieces together. And that's the best way that I can put it, right? It's like putting a puzzle together and, missing the corner pieces, right? It's probably a problem. But by God, hey, with MavSign, they really take that fear factor out of it completely. I mean, we haven't even talked about just, their fraud team, or there's so many other levels of protection they do, the ID verifications. I mean, again, and they're continuing to grow and offer more tools and resources to us as a dealership to help us, really not add more time to the transaction, but use our time better.
So that was the last thing. I'm glad you served that up, because the last thing I was going to ask, naturally, I mentioned it to Allison and touch base with Becky, but fraud has gone bananas, right? Identity theft has gone bananas. So if you wouldn't mind just speaking to, from your perspective, what is the state of fraud today in retail automotive, and how is you started to mention some of those tools and those resources, what it's doing to help you combat fraud and not just stay ahead of it, but to be able to have the confidence to stand in front of it with your clients and say, you're good.
Yeah, so because I look at it from somebody who's actually had that happen to me. I've had my identity stolen. I've had these situations in my own personal life, and it's so I take it serious, and I don't want the consumer to ever have that experience that I've had. And it's, I'm going to really right off the bat to the ID verification, that Rudy offers for us and provides. We're actually working again right now currently on making that an even more seamless process that's done every single time. But to be honest, what it does is their process being so simple gives us that. And again, I kind of trying to find my words here, Dave, so we might want to clip that here real quick. But specifically, I'm looking for the best way to say this, sir. You have to use multiple tools when it comes to fraud. If you truly want to get in front of this and stop it, you have to have multiple partners that are there at different points in the transaction to catch the key elements. Because here's the reality of it. Auto fraud right now is a massive problem across this country, and continues to grow. And the smarter these I'll say criminals have become, and AI has only made that even more of a challenge, I believe. I believe tools like MavSign are almost a requirement in business these days, because there's just too many ways they can get past you. And it's it's not a problem that's going to stop anytime soon. It's just you have to have one and have somebody like MavSign that's in front of the transaction. I mean, we have them touching, well, as soon as the next integration is completed, we'll have MavSign in the beginning of our transaction and at the end.
Wow.
And they'll actually be involved in every transaction at that point.
Not just offsite.
Not just offsite.
Yeah, that one's kind of interesting. I mean, it makes sense. You know, it pops to the top of your head that, hey, if I'm going to deliver a car outside my four walls, I don't even know if it's out. It doesn't even have to be out of state. If it's 2 cities over, I still have this concern. I have this requirement. You know, I've got an ethical, legal requirement to make sure I'm protecting my clients' data, and I certainly want to do the same for our own data. I want to protect my associates' data as well. But you bring up a huge point here. I don't know, why is that limited to just deals that are out of state when I think every single day I heard of just 2 in the last week. The person walked in to the store and identity fraud was perpetrated. And in both cases, it was over $100,000. The vehicle that was involved, it wasn't out of the city. It wasn't out of the state. It wasn't even out in the parking lot. It happened in the store. So
on camera half the time.
It happens what?
They have cameras half the time. They're not afraid.
It's unbelievable how you had the audacity of it. It's unbelievable. So I love that you said that, because I have a hard time understanding. You know, I tell my kids that, listen, there is no downside to working too hard. You know, I put too much time and effort. Oh, I studied. There's no, you overstudied, you screwed up. Oh, you worked too hard, or, you know, you were too nice. Dad, I screwed up. I was too nice. No. I mean, there's no downside. I don't understand, Preston, why any dealer in this day and age, when you're talking about your legacy, your reputation, your business, why would you even risk that? There's no downside. The worst that can happen is I've got MavSign. I experience no identity theft whatsoever, and I don't know how much of that was because of MavSign and how it was not. All I care about is I was able to protect myself and protect my clients. So it's crazy people don't have it. I loved the fact that you just said, no. This is going to happen on every deal, in every store. So it's very cool. I want to take the time, Preston, to thank you for giving me your time, for opening up this story and allowing people. It's so funny. There's so many people that are not even in our business that they have this fascination with the car business. You know, they would love to know exactly what happens and how does it happen behind the scenes. And this is a very rare glimpse from literally front to back, from the time somebody decided they wanted to get a car, their wife wanted to get a car, to the time they connected with you, that you connected them with that incredible GM, Matt, who I want to also thank for his time. And then Matt, kind enough to walk us through how that part happened. Then he seamlessly moves it over to Becky, who's got tremendous expertise after 30 years, has seen everything, and now has something in front of her that's available that allows her to do business. This is crazy. Allows her to do business in a way that's faster, simpler, easier, more seamless, and frankly better in every way, which is the same exact words that the client used. So can you imagine, from an associate's perspective, life just got a whole lot better, easier, and more seamless, and it's the same thing for the client. So I really want to thank you for allowing us to bring this particular story to people that were listening to this episode, and wish you and your team at the Napleton Auto Group all the best for the remainder of 2025 and having a great year. For Matt and his team over at Lexus of Wayzata, if you happen to be in Minnesota, listen to this, everybody. If you happen to be in Minnesota and you're looking for a Lexus, Matt's your guy, okay? But here's the thing. If you happen to not be in Minnesota and you want a Lexus, he's still your guy. As you heard, he'll figure it out. By the way, if it's not a Lexus, something tells me Preston knows a few people who may be able to help you get a Chevy, a Honda, a Toyota, or anything else you could possibly dream of. Rudy, I want to thank you and Allison especially for taking time out of her day to be able to share that, be willing to share that story front to back whatever would have happened. And I want to commend you on continuing to do more and more, you and your team, to bring fraud to its knees and to allow dealers to be able to level up against anybody, big disruptor or not, and to be able to break down the barriers of just what a normal market area used to be that allows them to sell anywhere, anytime, any place, in any way that a client wants to meet them. So thank you for bringing this to me and for taking the time to serve it up.
Happy to do it, David. Couldn't do it without our dealer partners.
Yeah, they're amazing. By the way, we'll have show notes. If you go to davidspisak.com, if you want to connect, you want to learn more about MavSign, you want to learn more about Preston, you want to connect with Preston online at LinkedIn, or Matt Meyer over at Lexus of Wayzata, Becky, or anybody else. I don't think you'll be able to connect with Allison, but hey, 5 out of 6 is not bad, people. Not bad. So any information you need, you could certainly get it there. Feel free, as always, to hit me up on LinkedIn. Please share this episode out. If you know somebody who's looking to buy a car, this is a pretty darn good way to buy a car. Things just got a whole lot better for any of us that is in the market for a car. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Please take the time also to write a review if you're so kind. Good, bad, or ugly. I love them all. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time on the David Spisak Show. Thanks so much.